The Imperial science vessel Categorical Imperative glided silently through the darkness of space. Its sleek silver hull reflected the distant light of Earth's sun as it approached the third planet. On the main bridge, High Taxonomist Taiyang stood with perfect posture, his blue uniform crisp and spotless. He watched the blue-green world grow larger on the main screen. "Preliminary scans complete, High Taxonomist," reported his assistant. "The planet shows clear signs of industrialization, basic satellite networks, and limited space travel within their own system." Taiyang nodded. This was exactly what he expected. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire had studied new species across the stars. They had a perfect system for classifying civilizations by their technology level, from 0, pre-tool, to 9, reality manipulation. The system had never failed. "Begin full classification protocol," Taiyang ordered. "I want all technology signatures recorded and categorized." The ship's sensors swept across Earth, recording every radio signal, every power source, every moving vehicle. The data poured into the Empire's advanced computers, which sorted and analyzed it with incredible speed. "Classification complete," the computer announced after several minutes. "Earth civilization, level 2.5, early space age, defining characteristics. Fossil fuel dependency, limited orbital capabilities, no faster-than-light travel, primitive digital networks." Taiyang smiled with satisfaction. Level 2.5 was exactly what he had predicted based on the initial scans. These humans were at least 3 centuries away from being considered for Imperial membership. "Prepare a first contact team," he ordered. Standard protocol for a level 2.5 civilization. 2 days later, the Imperial delegation landed at a specially prepared site outside Seoul, South Korea. The humans had been notified of their coming through simple radio messages. As expected from a level 2.5 civilization, the humans seemed both excited and nervous about meeting beings from another world. Ji-won Kim waited at the landing site. As the head of Korea's Aerospace Engineering Division, she had been chosen to represent Earth for this first meeting. She wore a simple blue suit and kept her expression calm, though her heart raced as the Imperial shuttle touched down. The shuttle door opened, and 5 beings stepped out. They looked almost human, except for their slightly blue-tinted skin and eyes that seemed too large. Taiyang led the group, walking with the confidence of someone who had done this hundreds of times before. "Greetings, representative of Earth," Taiyang said in perfect Korean, thanks to the translator device on his collar. "I am High Taxonomist Taiyang of the Galactic Empire. We have come to officially classify your world and begin cultural exchange." Ji-won bowed slightly. "Welcome to Earth, High Taxonomist. I am Dr. Ji-won Kim. We are honored by your visit." Taiyang's smile was polite but held a hint of condescension. "Your world has been classified as level 2.5 on the Imperial scale. This is quite an achievement for a young species. Many never make it past level 1. That is kind of you to say," Ji-won replied carefully. "We would be interested to learn more about this classification system." "Of course. I would be happy to explain it as we tour your facilities. I assume you have prepared a demonstration of your technological achievements?" Ji-won nodded. "Yes, please follow me." She led the Imperial delegation to a fleet of waiting electric cars. As they drove to the aerospace facility, Ji-won quietly touched the small device in her ear. It looked like a simple hearing aid, but was actually a secure communication link. "They're classified us as level 2.5, she whispered when the Imperials were distracted by the view. "Proceed with protocol under estimate." At the aerospace facility, Ji-won showed the visitors around carefully prepared areas. The technology on display was impressive by Earth standards rockets capable of reaching orbit, satellites with advanced sensors, plans for a moon base, but nothing that would surprise the Imperials. "Your rocket propulsion systems are quite efficient for a civilization at your stage," Taiyang commented as they examined a display engine. "Though, of course, you are still centuries away from true interstellar travel." "We can only dream of such advancements," Ji-won said humbly. One of the Imperial scientists examined a satellite model. "Your communication technology is primitive but functional. I notice you still use physical components rather than quantum entanglement. Quantum what? Ji-won asked, pretending confusion. The Imperial scientists exchanged knowing smiles. This was typical of a level 2.5 civilization. They hadn't even grasped basic quantum principles yet. The tour continued for several hours. Ji-won showed them Earth's most advanced technology, all carefully selected to maintain the level 2.5 appearance. The Imperials asked questions, took notes, and occasionally made suggestions that they clearly thought were helpful. Your species shows promise, Taeyong said as they finished the tour. In 3 or 4 centuries, you might be ready to petition for Imperial membership. Until then, we will monitor your progress from a distance. We are grateful for your wisdom, Ji-won replied as they walked back to the landing site. An alarm suddenly blared from the Imperial shuttle. One of the scientists checked a handheld device and looked up with concern. High taxonomist, our ship reports a massive solar flare heading toward this system. It will reach us in approximately 10 minutes. The radiation levels will be dangerous even for our vessel. Taeyong frowned. Can the shuttle reach the ship before the flare hits? Negative. We would be caught in open space during peak radiation. Ji-won watched this exchange with growing concern, both real and performed. This wasn't part of the plan. A genuine solar flare could be dangerous for everyone. She touched her ear device again. Control, we have a situation. Class X solar flare incoming. The Imperial delegation is at risk. A voice responded in her ear. Understood, activating Aegis protocol. Ji-won turned to Taeyong. High taxonomist, please bring your people inside quickly. We have some protection available. Protection? Your level 2.5 technology cannot possibly shield against a Class 10 solar flare. Taeyong said DISM-ISSIVOY. At that moment, the sky seemed to ripple. A faint blue glow spread across the horizon, growing stronger by the second. The Imperials stared in shock as a visible energy shield formed in the atmosphere above them. What is this? Taeyong demanded. This is not level 2.5 technology. Energy shielding of this magnitude is at least level 4. Ji-won's polite smile faded. I believe we need to have a different conversation, High Taxonomist. The shield fully formed just as the first waves of solar radiation reached Earth. The instruments on the Imperial shuttle registered the massive energy surge, but inside the shield they remained completely safe. You have been deceiving us, Taeyong said, his voice a mixture of anger and shock. This technology should be impossible for your civilization. No, Ji-won replied calmly. Your classification system made assumptions about us that weren't correct. Humans don't develop technology the way other species do. She gestured to a nearby building that was suddenly transforming, its simple concrete walls sliding away to reveal a much more advanced structure underneath. We've been hiding in plain sight for decades, Ji-won explained. And there's a very good reason why. 1 week after the solar flare incident, a much larger Imperial ship entered Earth's orbit. The Imperial Verdict was a massive cruiser with weapons clearly visible on its hull. Its arrival sent a clear message the Empire was not happy about. Being deceived, Admiral Sunwoo stood on the bridge, watching Earth through the main viewport. Unlike High Taxonomist Taeyong, who had been curious but condescending, Admiral Sunwoo looked genuinely angry. Prepare my shuttle, he ordered. I want a full security team with me. These humans have some explaining to do. When Admiral Sunwoo's shuttle landed outside Seoul, a different welcome party waited for him. No simple cars this time. Instead, sleek vehicles that floated above the ground without wheels lined the landing area. The buildings visible in the distance now showed their true nature, smooth structures with glowing lines running through them. Clearly powered by advanced energy systems. Engineer Minji Park stepped forward as the Admiral and his security team exited the shuttle. She wore a simple white uniform with no special markings or decorations. Admiral Sunwoo, Minji said with a polite bow. Welcome to Earth. I am Engineer Minji, appointed to explain our technological development to you. You have violated Imperial classification protocols, Admiral Sunwoo said coldly. Hiding advanced technology is considered a hostile act. Minji remained calm. We didn't hide our technology to deceive you. We hid it because we knew you wouldn't understand how we developed it. This answer seemed to surprise the Admiral. Take me to your leaders immediately. Of course, please follow me. Instead of going to a government building, Minji led the Imperial delegation to a large research facility outside the city. Inside, humans worked on various technologies that definitely did not belong in a level 2.5 civilization. Some areas contained what looked like early designs for faster-than-light drives. Others showed energy systems that the Empire classified as level 5 or higher. This doesn't make sense, one of the Imperial scientists in the delegation said. Where did you get these technologies? Did you find ancient artifacts? Did some advanced species give them to you? Minji shook her head. No, we built everything ourselves, step by step. She led them to a large room with a timeline displayed on the wall. It showed human technological development from the first tools to their current level. Most species in the galaxy experience technological leaps, Minji explained. They either find artifacts from ancient civilizations or are given technology by benefactor species, but humans took a different path. She pointed to various points on the timeline. We could have developed faster-than-light travel a century ago, but we chose not to until we completely understood the theoretical foundations. Admiral Sunwoo looked skeptical. Why would you deliberately slow your own progress? Because we believe understanding is more important than advancement, Minji replied. We don't just want to use technology. We want to know exactly how it works, why it works, and how to improve it. The Admiral still seemed confused. Show me an example. Minji led them to another section of the facility where Engineer Hyunwoo was working on what looked like an Imperial weapon system. This is one of your standard Imperial defense cannons, Hyunwoo explained. Very advanced technology by most standards. Admiral Sunwoo nodded with pride. Yes, one of our superior weapon systems. Far beyond what a level 2.5 civilization should be able to comprehend. Hyunwoo picked up the weapon carefully. It's an impressive design, but it has 3 critical flaws that make it unreliable in certain conditions. That's impossible, one of the Imperial technicians objected. Our weapons are perfect. With careful movements, Hyunwoo opened the weapon's casing and pointed to specific components. This power regulator overheats after 67 continuous seconds of operation. This targeting system fails in high magnetic fields, and this material degrades when exposed to common forms of radiation. The Imperial technicians stared in shock. These were known issues with the weapon, but they were classified secrets. How could this human know about them? We found these flaws through methodical testing and analysis, Hyunwoo explained. Then we fixed them in our version of the technology. He showed them a similar weapon of human design. It looked simpler on the outside, but contained more advanced components inside. You see, Minji said, humans didn't just build technology. We perfected it before moving forward. That's why our development path doesn't fit your classification system. Admiral Sunwoo was beginning to understand. You're saying that instead of leaping from one level to another, humans built each level thoroughly before moving to the next. Exactly, Minji confirmed. Most species rush to advance, often using technology they don't fully understand. We chose a different path. To demonstrate further, Minji took them to a testing area where young engineering students were working. Unlike Imperial education, which focused on using advanced technology, these students were learning fundamental principles. They built simple machines before moving to complex ones. They understood the basic science before applying it. This is how all human engineers learn, Minji explained. From the ground up, with complete understanding at each step. Admiral Sunwoo watched as a student dismantled and rebuilt an advanced power system with her eyes closed, explaining each component as she worked. In the Empire, the Admiral admitted, most engineers could not do this. They know which buttons to press, but not why they work. That's the difference, Minji said. We believe it's dangerous to use technology you don't understand. As the tour continued, the Imperial delegation saw more examples of human methodical advancement. They saw early prototypes alongside finished products. They saw failed experiments that led to new discoveries. They saw a process of development unlike anything in the Empire's experience. By the end of the day, Admiral Sunwoo's anger had turned to thoughtful consideration. He stood with Minji on a balcony overlooking the research center. "Your approach to technology is unique in the galaxy," he said. "Where most species race to advance, humans prioritize comprehensive understanding over speed." "We had to," Minji replied. "Earth's history is full of technologies that caused great harm because people didn't fully understand the consequences. We learned to be careful, to be thorough." Admiral Sunwoo looked up at the stars. "The Empire has classified thousands of species, but we've never encountered one that develops like humans do." He turned to Minji. "This will require a completely new approach to classification." Perhaps," Minji suggested gently, "it requires rethinking whether classification itself is useful. Each species finds its own path." As Admiral Sunwoo prepared to return to his ship, he had one more question. "If humans have been so methodical and careful, why hide your true level from us?" Minji smiled. "Because we've been watching the Empire for decades, and we noticed something important." "What's that?" "The Empire respects power more than wisdom. We wanted you to see who we really are before you saw what we can do." 1 month after Admiral Sunwoo's visit to Earth, the Galactic Empire made an unprecedented decision. For the first time in its 10,000-year history, the Empire established a technological exchange program with a species it had initially classified as Level 2.5. On a bright morning in Seoul, a small Imperial shuttle landed at the university. Unlike the previous Imperial visits, this one had no weapons or security teams. Instead, a single Imperial scientist stepped out, looking both nervous and excited. "Welcome to Seoul National University," Jiwon said, greeting the visitor. "You must be Scientist Junho." The Imperial scientist bowed awkwardly, trying to copy the human greeting he had studied. "Yes, I am Junho. Thank you for accepting me into your learning institution." Across the galaxy, a human shuttle was landing at the Imperial capital. The massive city planet of Imperialis glittered with towers that reached into the clouds. "Engineer." Minji Park stepped onto Imperial soil as Earth's first scientific ambassador. "The Council awaits you," said her Imperial guide. "They are most curious about human engineering principles." Both exchanges had begun, and both would reveal truths neither side fully expected. At Seoul National University, Junho followed Jaewon through the engineering department. Unlike Imperial academic centers, which were quiet and formal, the university buzzed with activity. Students argued passionately about ideas. Professors worked alongside their pupils. Failures were displayed as proudly as successes. "Today you will join Professor Doyen's class on energy systems," Jaewon explained. "He is one of our best teachers." Junho nodded eagerly. He had been selected for this exchange because of his expertise in Imperial energy technology. He expected to find primitive human systems that he could help improve. The classroom surprised him. Instead of the advanced holographic displays used in Imperial education, Professor Doyen had actual physical components spread across tables. Students worked in small groups, building real circuits and power cells with their hands. "Why are they using physical components?" Junho whispered to Jiwon. "Wouldn't simulations be more efficient?" Professor Doyen believes students must feel the technology to truly understand it, Jiwon replied. "Simulations come later, after they know the basics." Professor Doyen noticed them and came over with a warm smile. "Ah, our Imperial guest has arrived. Welcome, Scientist Junho. Please join any group you like." Junho hesitantly sat with a group of students who were building what looked like a simple power converter. By Imperial standards, it was ancient technology. "What is the purpose of this exercise?" Junho asked one of the students. "We're learning how energy conversion works at the most basic level," the student explained. "Once we understand this, we'll move to more advanced systems." "But couldn't you just learn the final design?" Junho asked, confused. "Why build something so primitive first?" The student looked equally confused by the question. How could we improve the advanced system if we don't understand the basic principles it's built on? Meanwhile, on Imperialis, Minji was getting her first tour of the Imperial Science Academy. The building was magnificent, with soaring ceilings and technology that seemed almost magical. Imperial scientists demonstrated their most advanced systems, clearly expecting her to be impressed. "This is our primary power distribution network," explained an Imperial engineer. "It supplies energy to the entire capital region." Minji studied the glowing network map. "Interesting. Where does the energy come from?" The engineer pointed to a section of the map. "From the ancient reactors, of course. They have powered the Empire for millennia." "Ancient reactors?" Minji asked. "You mean you didn't build them?" The engineer looked surprised by the question. "Well, no. They were built by the precursors, like most of our core technology. We maintain them and have made small improvements over the centuries." As the tour continued, Minji began to notice a pattern. Much of the Empire's most impressive technology had been discovered, not developed. The Imperials were excellent at using and modifying existing systems, but they rarely built new technology from scratch. 3 days into the exchange, an emergency disrupted both Junho's and Minji's experiences. At the Imperial capital, alarms blared throughout the central district. The main power distribution hub had failed, plunging important government buildings into darkness. Emergency systems were failing to activate. "This is impossible," the chief engineer said as his team frantically worked at control panels. "The system has never failed before." Minji, who happened to be touring the facility when the failure occurred, watched as the Imperial engineers tried the same solutions repeatedly, growing more desperate each time. "May I take a look?" she finally asked. The chief engineer hesitated, then nodded. "Nothing else is working." Minji approached the main control system. Instead of just looking at the displays, she asked to see the physical components. The Imperials reluctantly opened panels that hadn't been accessed in centuries. "The problem isn't in your control systems," Minji said after examining the ancient machinery. "It's in the power transfer mechanism itself. These connections have degraded over time." "But the system reports no degradation," an Imperial technician objected. "That's because the sensors monitoring them have also degraded," Minji explained. "They're giving false readings." Using basic tools and her understanding of fundamental principles, Minji bypassed the failing components and restored power within. An hour, the Imperial engineers watched in amazement as the lights came back on throughout the capital. "How did you know what to do?" the chief engineer asked. "You've never seen this technology before." "I didn't need to see it before," Minji replied. "Energy transfer follows the same basic principles regardless of the technology level. Once I understood what the system was trying to do, I could identify where it was failing." Back on Earth, Junho was having a similar revelation. During a practical exercise, Professor Doyon asked the students to design a power system for a specific purpose. Junho immediately suggested using Imperial quantum field generators, which were far more advanced than anything humans had. "But why? Would you use quantum fields for this application?" a student asked him. "Because they're the most advanced option," Junho replied, as if this was obvious. "But they're also the most complex, least reliable, and hardest to repair," the student pointed out. "For this purpose, a simple fusion relay would be more efficient and 10 times more reliable." Junho was stunned. The student was right. The Imperial solution was more advanced, but less practical after class. Junho approached Professor Doyon with a question that had been bothering him. "Why don't humans use AI to design their technology like we do in the Empire?" he asked. "It would be much faster." Professor Doyon considered the question carefully. "We do use AI as a tool, but not as a replacement for human understanding. Think of it this way. If the AI breaks, who fixes it if nobody understands how it works?" "I've never thought about it that way," Junho admitted. "Understanding the technology we use as a core human value," Doyon explained. "We believe that depending on technology you don't understand is just another form of slavery." As Junho walked back to his quarters that evening, he began to see human technological development in a new light. It wasn't primitive at all, it was thorough in a way the Empire had never considered important. 2 months into the exchange program, the emergency alarm sounded throughout the Imperial Palace. Council members rushed to the great meeting hall, their faces showing fear that most had never displayed in public before. "The Hydean Nebula is destabilizing," announced the science director, pointing to a large display that showed a massive cloud of colored gases turning violent. "Our sensors show energy spikes 10 times higher than normal levels." The room fell silent. The Hydean Nebula wasn't just a beautiful space landmark, it was home to 12 Imperial colony worlds with billions of citizens. "How long do we have?" asked the Emperor. "At the current rate of destabilization, the colonies have less than 2 weeks before radiation levels become deadly. Full nebula collapse could occur within a month." "Deploy the containment system immediately," ordered the Emperor. The Hydean stabilizers were built for exactly this situation. The science director looked uncomfortable. "We already tried?" "Your Majesty, the stabilizers failed on activation. The technicians can't determine why." This news sent whispers of panic through the room. The Hydean stabilizers were among the most advanced technology in the Empire massive machines built by their ancestors to control the nebula's energy. If they couldn't be activated, billions would die. "What about evacuation?" asked a council member. "Impossible in the time available," replied the military director. "We would need 10 times our current fleet to move that many people." After hours of desperate discussion, one council member finally spoke the words no one wanted to say: "Perhaps we should consult the humans." The suggestion was met with outrage from many council members. "Rely on a level 2.5 civilization to solve a problem. Our most advanced technology cannot?" One scoffed. Admiral Sunwoo, who had become Earth's strongest advocate in the Empire since his visit, stood up. "Colleagues, we have all seen evidence that the human approach to technology is different from ours. Their methods may offer solutions we haven't considered." After much debate, the Emperor made his decision. "Contact Earth, request their assistance." 3 days later, a team of human scientists arrived on Imperialis. They were led by physicist Dr. Ga, a small woman with calm eyes and a confident manner. The Imperial Council gathered to hear her assessment. "Thank you for sharing your data on the Hydean Nebula," Ga began. "We believe we understand the problem." She displayed a simple diagram that showed energy flows within the nebula. "Your stabilizers were designed to contain the nebula's energy from the outside. But the current instability is coming from within, specifically from these 3 points." "We're aware of that," said the science director impatiently. "That's why we attempted to increase the stabilizer's power output." "More power isn't the solution," J.A. replied calmly. "In fact, it made things worse by adding energy to an already overloaded system." She showed a new diagram, a surprisingly simple-looking device. "We propose using these energy diverters at each instability point. They will safely channel the excess energy away from the colonies." The Imperial scientists studied the design with growing disbelief. "This is absurdly simple," one said dismissively. "It's little more than a glorified lightning rod." "These use physical components rather than quantum field generators," another pointed out. "How could they possibly handle nebula-level energies?" Ga remained patient. "The principle is simple, but the application is precise. These diverters use superconducting materials arranged in a specific pattern to create a path of least resistance for the energy." "Our advanced systems couldn't contain this energy," argued the science director. "Why would we believe these primitive devices could succeed where Imperial technology failed?" Admiral Sunwoo stepped forward. "Because sometimes the simplest solution is the correct one. The humans have shown us repeatedly that understanding basic principles leads to reliable solutions." The debate continued for hours. The Imperial officials couldn't believe that such simple methods would work when their advanced systems had failed. The philosophical divide between the two approaches became increasingly clear. The Empire valued the appearance of advancement, while humans valued reliable functionality regardless of how impressive it looked. Your technology looks impressive, GA finally said, her patience wearing thin. But your stabilizers were built to contain normal energy fluctuations, not this specific type of cascade failure. Our diverters are designed specifically for this problem. How can you be so confident? Asked the Emperor. You've never worked with a nebula before. Because energy is energy, GA replied simply. The scale is different, but the principles are the same. We've tested these designs in our laboratories under conditions that simulate the nebula's current state. The Emperor consulted quietly with his advisors. Time was running out for the Hydean colonies. Finally, he turned back to the human delegation. We will approve your solution, he announced, but with one condition. If it fails, Earth will be quarantined as a deceptive civilization. No further contact will be permitted with the Empire. GA looked at her fellow scientists, who nodded. In agreement, we accept your terms. But we'll need Imperial ships to transport our equipment and teams to the nebula immediately. As the meeting ended, Admiral Sunwoo approached GA privately. You understand the risk you're taking? If this fails, your entire planet will be cut off from galactic society. We understand, GA replied. But we also understand the physics of this problem better than your scientists do? Sometimes the Empire mistakes complexity for advancement. What do you mean? Your stabilizers are impressive machines with thousands of components and exotic materials. But they were built to solve a different problem. Our solution looks simple because it addresses the actual problem directly. Admiral Sunwoo considered. The Council thinks your technology is primitive because it doesn't use quantum fields or reality manipulation. And we think technology is only as good as its ability to solve the problem at hand, GA replied. A perfect hammer is useless when you need a screwdriver. As the human team prepared to depart for the Hydean Nebula, tension filled the Imperial Palace. Half the Council believed the humans would fail spectacularly. Some even suggested this might be for the best. It would put these upstart humans in their place and restore the proper order of the galaxy. Admiral Sunwoo watched the human ships depart alongside the Imperial fleet. He had spent enough time with humans to know they didn't take risks like this unless they were confident. But even he wondered, could such seemingly basic technology really succeed where the Empire's most advanced systems had failed? The fate of 12 worlds and Earth's future relationship with the Empire now hung in the balance. The Imperial flagship, Glorious Mandate, entered the edge of the Hydean Nebula with 3 human ships following close behind. From the main viewport, the scene was both beautiful and terrifying. Clouds of colored gas swirled in strange patterns. Flashes of energy lit up the darkness like silent lightning. In the distance, the faint lights of colony worlds could be seen. 12 planets where billions of Imperial citizens waited anxiously for salvation. High taxonomist Taeyong stood on the bridge, watching as the human team prepared their equipment. He still couldn't believe the Empire was relying on what looked like outdated technology to save their colonies. Your ships are surprisingly sturdy, he commented to Juwan, who was checking a display panel. I expected them to struggle with the nebula's radiation. We built them specifically for this environment, Juwan replied without looking up. Triple-layered shielding, backup systems for every critical component, and manual overrides for everything. Taeyong frowned at the mention of manual overrides. The Empire had moved beyond physical control centuries ago. Everything in their ships was operated through neural interfaces or advanced AI. The human ships certainly looked strange compared to Imperial vessels. Where Imperial ships were sleek and minimalist, with most systems hidden from view, the human vessels had visible components, access panels, and even some mechanical gauges alongside digital displays. We'll reach the first instability point in 20 minutes, announced the Imperial navigator. Energy readings are already beyond safe levels. Deploy the first team, ordered Admiral Sunwoo, who had joined the mission as the Imperial commander. A small craft launched from the human-laden ship. Inside were Engineer Hyunwoo and 3 other human technicians, along with 2 Imperial scientists who were there to observe and report back to the Council. As they approached the first instability Point, one of the Imperial scientists, Jingho, watched with growing concern as the humans prepared their equipment. "These are your famous divertors?" he asked, pointing to what looked like a simple metal rod with attached components. "They look like something from a history museum." Hyunwoo smiled patiently. "Appearances can be deceiving. The design is straightforward, but the materials and configuration are very precise." The small craft reached the deployment zone, an area where energy currents in the nebula converged to create one of the 3 instability points. Through the viewport, they could see violent swirls of gas and bursts of radiation. "Our sensors can't get clear readings," said one of the Imperial technicians, tapping at his control panel with frustration. "The energy interference is too strong." "That's why we brought these," Hyunwoo replied, holding up what looked like a simple pair of goggles. "Direct visual observation tools." "You mean binoculars?" Junho asked incredulously. "You're going to look at a nebula instability with your eyes? These enhance certain wavelengths and filter others," Hyunwoo explained, putting them on. "Sometimes seeing is better than relying only on sensor data." The humans prepared to deploy their first diverter. The device was loaded into a launch tube, ready to be positioned at the exact coordinates GA had calculated back on Imperialis. Suddenly, the small craft shuddered as a wave of radiation hit it. The Imperial systems flickered and went dark. Their advanced navigation computer, quantum communications array, and automated control systems all failed at once. "We've lost all systems," Junho exclaimed in panic. "We're dead in space." But to his surprise, the human equipment continued to function. Their navigation tools still worked, their communications remained online, and the craft maintained its position. "How is this possible?" the Imperial scientist asked. "Your technology should have failed first." "Radiation shielding," Hyunwoo explained calmly. "We use physical components where possible and multiple backup systems. Our computers are less advanced than yours, but much more hardened against environmental extremes." Working quickly, the human team deployed the first diverter. The simple-looking device shot out into the swirling gases and automatically extended several rod-like arms. Immediately, streams of energy began flowing toward it and through it, following the path the device created. "It's working," Junho said in disbelief. "The energy readings are stabilizing." "1 down, 2 to go," Hyunwoo replied with a smile. "Back." On the flagship, a similar scene was unfolding. The intense radiation from the nebula had disabled many of the Imperial ship's advanced systems. The neural interfaces no longer worked, the automated navigation was offline, and the quantum communication network had collapsed. Admiral Sunwoo watched in amazement as the humans switched to backup systems or manual controls without missing a beat. Their ships continued to function while Imperial vessels struggled. "Your ships aren't affected by the radiation?" he asked Juwon. "They are," she replied, "but we planned for that. Every critical system has an analog backup. If the computers fail, we can fly the ship manually. If the power grid fails, we have mechanical systems that don't need electricity." "But that's so primitive," Taeyong said, the word no longer sounding like an insult but a question. "It's reliable," Juwon corrected. "We could have built more advanced-looking technology, but we chose dependable solutions over flashy ones." As the mission continued, the human team successfully deployed all 3 diverters. At each instability point, the strange devices channeled the dangerous energy away from the colony worlds and back into stable patterns within the nebula. 6 hours after the operation began, sensors confirmed what everyone could see: the Hyadian nebula was stabilizing. The violent energy fluctuations had subsided. The colony worlds were safe. In the main conference room of the Glorious Mandate, Imperial and human teams gathered to discuss what had happened. The mood was mixed relief at the successful mission, but confusion and some embarrassment among the Imperial scientists. "I don't understand how your technology worked when ours failed," one Imperial engineer admitted. "Our systems are far more advanced." Engineer Hyunwoo connected a simple display device to show diagrams of both approaches. "Your stabilizers were like using a sledgehammer to push back the ocean. Our diverters were like building channels to direct the water where we wanted it to go. But our systems use quantum fields and AI predictive algorithms, the Imperial engineer argued. Yours use physical components and material science. Advanced doesn't always mean better, Yunwu explained gently. Your quantum systems are vulnerable to the very energy they're trying to control. Our physical systems are designed to work with that energy, not fight against it. Admiral Sunwoo had been quietly listening. Now he spoke up. I think we're facing an uncomfortable truth. In our race to appear advanced, the Empire has built a technological house of cards. Human technology isn't primitive, it's fundamentally sound in ways ours is not. Taeyong, who had been the most dismissive of human technology when they first met, nodded slowly. We've confused complexity with advancement. We value technology that seems magical, while humans value technology that simply works. As the Imperial flagship began its journey back to Imperialis, Jiwan stood with Admiral Sunwoo, looking out at the now peaceful nebula. Will the Empire learn from this? She asked. Some will, Sunwoo replied. Others will resist. Change is never easy, especially for a civilization as old as ours. We don't claim to have all the answers, Jiwan said. Humans have made plenty of technological mistakes. That's why we learn to be thorough, Sunwoo smiled. Perhaps that's the lesson the Empire needs most. That true advancement comes not from skipping steps, but from mastering each one along the way. 6 months after the Hyadian Nebula crisis, a formal Imperial shuttle landed in Seoul. This time, there was no secrecy, no pretending to be less advanced than they were. Earth had proven itself, and now the whole world watched as the shuttle's doors opened. Out stepped a delegation of the highest Imperial officials, led by the Emperor himself. It was the first time in over 3,000 years that the Galactic Emperor had personally visited a non-imperial world. In a grand ceremony held at Seoul National University, the Emperor stood before representatives from all Earth nations. His blue-tinted skin and tall figure stood out among the humans, but he had chosen to wear simple clothing rather than his usual elaborate robes. People of Earth, the Emperor began, his voice translated perfectly into every human language simultaneously. For 10,000 years, the Galactic Empire has classified civilizations based on their technological advancement. We believed this system was perfect until we met humans. He gestured to where Jiwan, Minji, Hyunwoo, and Jie sat in the front row. You have shown us that true advancement is not measured by how impressive your technology looks, but by how well you understand it. Today, I am here to correct our mistake. The Emperor announced that Earth was invited to join the Empire not as a subject civilization as was traditional, but as an equal partner with a special role, teaching the Empire how to truly understand their own technology. Across our galaxy, a new movement has begun, the Emperor continued. We call it the Thoroughness Revolution. Imperial academies are adopting human engineering principles. Flashy but unreliable systems are being replaced with more fundamental designs. The classification system itself is being rewritten to value understanding over mere technological appearance. After the ceremony, Engineer Duan met with the Imperial Education Minister. They walked through the university campus, discussing plans for the future. We would like you to establish the first Galactic Engineering Academy here on Earth, the minister said. A place where species from across the Empire can come to learn the human approach to technology. Doyan looked surprised. You want us to teach Imperial citizens? Yes, the minister nodded. The Hyadian crisis opened many eyes. When our advanced systems failed and your simple solutions worked, it forced us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about technological progress. Doyan agreed to the proposal, and within weeks, the first alien students began arriving on Earth. They came from all corners of the Empire, beings with scales, feathers, multiple limbs, or entirely different biologies. All came to learn how humans built technology from the ground up, with thorough understanding at each step. Meanwhile, Admiral Sunwoo was assigned to lead a new project, rebuilding Imperial defense systems using human principles. At a massive space station orbiting Jupiter, human, and Imperial engineers worked side by side. These new shield generators use 30% less energy than our previous design, an Imperial technician reported with excitement. And they're twice as reliable under stress conditions, Admiral Sunwoo nodded with satisfaction. And more. Importantly, everyone working on them understands exactly how they function. No more black box technology that only works until it doesn't. The changes weren't always easy. Many in the Empire resisted the new approach, arguing that it was a step backward to focus on fundamentals rather than advanced applications. Some Imperial scientists felt humiliated to be learning from humans, who had been classified as primitive just months earlier. Why should we rebuild what already works? One Imperial Council member complained during a heated debate. Because it doesn't work as well as it could, Admiral Sunwoo replied firmly. And when it fails, too few of us understand how to fix it. Slowly but surely, the thoroughness revolution spread. Imperial ships began incorporating human design principles, redundant systems, manual backups, and components that could be repaired rather than just replaced. Imperial scientists started publishing papers on fundamental principles that had been overlooked for centuries. 6 more months passed. On a special observation deck of the Imperial Palace, Jiwon met with the Galactic Emperor. They stood looking out at the spectacular view of Imperialis, its towers gleaming in the light of twin suns. Our civilization has changed more in the past year than in the previous century, the Emperor said. Not all of my people are happy about it. Change is never easy, Jiwon replied. Even on Earth, some people resist new ideas. The Emperor turned to face her. There is something I have wanted to ask you since we first discovered Earth's true nature. Why did humans choose such a methodical path when you could have advanced more quickly? Jiwon considered the question carefully. It wasn't always a conscious choice. Throughout our history, we made many mistakes with technology. We built weapons that could destroy our entire planet before we fully understood their impact. We created communication systems that changed our societies in ways we didn't predict. She walked to a display panel showing Earth from space. About 200 years ago, after several technology-related disasters, our leaders made a decision. We would no longer advance for the sake of advancement. We would make sure we understood each step before moving to the next. But you sacrificed speed, the Emperor noted. You could have reached the stars centuries earlier. Yes, Jiwon agreed. But we would have brought our mistakes with us. We realized that technology without wisdom is dangerous. We weren't building slowly because we had to. We were building carefully because history taught us the dangers of technology outpacing wisdom. The Emperor was silent for a long moment, absorbing her words. I believe you may have saved us, he finally said. The Empire has been stagnant for centuries, using technology we barely understand, copying designs from ancient civilizations without knowing the principles behind them. We mistook using advanced technology for being advanced ourselves. It's not too late to change, Jiwon said. That's the wonderful thing about understanding fundamentals. You can always build something better once you know how things truly work. As their meeting ended, the Emperor looked out once more at the capital city, what my ancestors first dismissed as primitive might be what saves us all in the end. Across the galaxy, the impact of human methodical thinking continued to spread. On a distant colony world, children in school now learned basic principles before touching advanced technology. In Imperial research centers, scientists returned to fundamental questions that had been ignored for generations. On Earth, the new Galactic Engineering Academy graduated its first class of Imperial students, who returned to their worlds with a new approach to technology. The classification system that had labeled Earth as Level 2.5 was eventually abandoned entirely. In its place came a new understanding. True advancement wasn't a single path that all species followed, but many paths, each with its own wisdom, and on the wall of the Imperial Science Council chamber, a new motto was inscribed in both Imperial script and human languages: understanding before advancement. Wisdom before power.